my first guest is a good friend of mine, one of the smartest people in the home improvement industry, Tony Hoty. I know a lot of you know Tony, but for those of you that don't, let me give you a little bit of background on Tony and why you don't want to miss a minute of what he has to say. So Tony has 20 years or over 20 years of experience in the replacement contractor industry, window company, siding, roofing. He's worked in nearly every position in the typical home improvement business model. He's been a canvasser. He's been a telemarketer, an exhibitor, a sales rep, a manager, and an owner. He consults for many of the industry's top companies, including dozens of companies in Remodeling Magazine's Big 50, the top 500 contractors, guys on all those lists. He's worked with them. Tony has developed a proven system and methodology for lead generation that is virtually universal in nature, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. And the thing that I like most about Tony is Tony's the real deal. Everything Tony talks about is real-world experience. I heard him say once that he's not a conference room consultant, which I really like. He is actually in the trenches. He doesn't sit in a conference room and tell people, hey, this is what you should do. He actually gets them out of the office, takes them out in the field, shows them what to do. And Tony also, I think, is probably one of the only consultants in the industry that actually owns his own home improvement company. And he was actually in a house last night with one of his new salespeople. So what you're going to get from Tony is fresh, it's real world, it's what's working now, not what worked 10 years ago, what's working now, what's going to work today in 2016 to make leads. And what Tony is really good at is what we've been calling proactive lead generation. That is, I'm going to let him tell us. So Tony, you're there?
I'm here and happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Bob.
I'm so glad that you're here. So I was about to go in and talk about proactive lead generation. It's better they hear it from you. Tell us what proactive lead generation is.
I'd be happy to. It's certainly one of my passions. The kind of leads that you go get, the kind of leads that you manufacture. There's a lot of leads opportunities out there, a lot of different lead sources. Many of them, we write a check and we expect leads in return, whether we're advertising on TV, whether we're advertising on radio, whether we're advertising on Google or in print media. Those are the types of leads that you can go to the checkbook, you can write, and you can cross your fingers and hope that you get the return. The kind of leads that I really specialize in helping my clients generate are go-get marketing leads, the kind we manufacture in proactive fashion. So we're going to, go door to door, face to face, out in the neighborhoods around our job sites. We're going to get on the phone and we're going to resurrect old dormant inquiries. We're going to work some of the retail store opportunities that exist out there, trade shows, events, fairs, festivals, all of these face-to-face venues where we can generate leads. And, the beauty of these outbound leads, these proactive leads, is that, they're not really affected much by outside factors. The inbound leads, they can be affected. I get calls all the time when circumstances change in the marketplace. We've got a presidential campaign impending, and I'm already getting the phone calls from clients saying, hey, how can we be proactive about this? We know that our media that we've been buying is going to go away. We can't compete with the deep pockets of the presidential candidates, so we're no longer going to be able to advertise on TV or radio like at the same rates that we have been. So we need to be proactive. Media stories can affect how well your advertising, is working for you. So these kinds of things, outside factors, often affect how advertising or inbound lead generation works, whereas outbound lead generation much more proactive in nature. I'll never forget the time I was going door to door in New Jersey, less than 20 miles away from Manhattan, the day after 9/11, and we were making leads. Regardless of what was going on in the world around us, we were still able to generate leads because we were proactive in our efforts to do so. So really something to be said for proactive lead generation.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because on that exact same day in California, I wasn't doing any of that type of market. I wasn't doing any outbound. So what happened to my phone? It stopped ringing for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It stopped ringing. Now, so my biggest question with you has always been, and you get this a lot, I know, you must, but Tony, I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it. What do you say to people that are just can't kind of wrap their heads around going to fairs and festivals or going door to door? What do you say to them?
Well, I understand that there are certain personality types that are not really designed, or their behavioral profile isn't really fit for going door to door or working in proactive fashion. Nevertheless, there are plenty of people out there who are engineered to go do this type of marketing. And my suggestion is that you actually go out and recruit and find those individuals who can help you build that type of program for your business. It's so viable and really so important to have that element or that component as part of your lead generation. And so I would say, go out and get the people who are built to do it for you.
Yeah. So the best answer for that is, hey, you're not going to go do it yourself. You are going to bring on a few people to start to do this type of marketing for you.
You're correct.
Yeah. So why do you think it's important that a company has this type of lead generation in their marketing mix? I mean, you gave us a couple of good reasons, but let's go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but just like a human being, a healthy human being has a very balanced diet, a healthy home improvement company has a balanced marketing mix. Yeah. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Different lead sources, as we discussed earlier, can be affected by different things. Even canvassing can be affected by weather. Shows and events often kind of clear off the schedule towards the holiday season and no longer become viable. So there's a lot of different things that can affect various lead sources. So at the end of the day, it's important to have a well-balanced kind of a marketing mix. You want to have a pie chart that's, full circle. And so that's really critical when it comes to having a healthy organization, because without the leads, everything begins with the leads. So we got to have a healthy marketing mix.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that I'll throw into this, and I think I could probably say it, Tony probably wouldn't say it, but look, I work with a lot of companies that are out there canvassing and that are doing shows and events, that are doing this type of marketing. And I'll tell you, if you are not out there competing, they are taking business from you. They are taking leads from you. Because once they grab somebody and in a proactive way, rather than just counting on inbound marketing, inbound leads, phone calls coming in, they're grabbing people before you even have a chance of getting them, and they're taking them out of the market. And I think that's another really strong reason. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't agree more. It's so important to create those leads in proactive fashion, because you really steal consumers off the market before they ever began shopping.
Yeah.
And that is just essential.
Yeah. I've seen you do this at home shows where you actually get people before they walk into the home show.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean,
it's aggressive.
Getting up, I call it leapfrogging the competition.
Yeah.
I have some clients that I'm working with right now. They were taking it a step further. We don't like taking them off the market just outside the home show. We've now gone online and we've created, videos and links that, if people are Googling tickets to their local home and garden show, we're posting, landing pages for free tickets that you can come to our showroom and acquire, or you can get a free estimate and acquire. So anytime someone's Googling tickets to the local home show, they're actually finding one of our links at the very top of the list, driving them to us. And again, just trying to steal people off the market before they ever get in.
Yeah. Critical, aggressive. I mean, that's the new way of doing business. So you've mentioned a lot of different avenues for outbound lead generation or proactive lead generation. You've mentioned shows and events, canvassing, retail opportunities. Do you have a favorite?
Well, it's hard to have a favorite, but I have a long history and a special place in my heart for canvassing. And the reason for that is it's so simple. It's just so simple to go out and knock on a few doors around your job site, and people have seen the trucks, people have seen the change in their neighbor's home, and it's so logical in nature for that reason to just kind of because you're in a neighborhood that's the same age as your customer, the homes are same value, same construction type, very logical in nature to just reach out and talk to them in proactive fashion and see if they're experiencing the same dissatisfaction with their current situation, whether it be their roofing, their siding, their windows, their bathroom, or otherwise. And on top of the fact that it's simple and logical, it is so targeted. It is just unbelievably targeted. We can pick and choose exactly which houses we want to approach and which ones we don't. If there happens to be a lockbox on the door, and it's for sale, we can pass over it. And so incredible targeting, with the canvassing. And so on top of being simple, logical, and targeted, it's proactive, it's scalable. You can have one canvasser out there knocking on doors. If that's all you need to keep your staff busy, you can have a dozen or 24 canvassers out there knocking on doors. So extremely scalable, which is very attractive to a lot of businesses. And it creates a culture that really values a lead. One thing that I've learned over the years traveling is that the companies that are out there creating leads are actually better at converting them. They show higher conversion rates on demonstrations and sales, which is imperative. And creating that culture raises the conversion rates across the board when you get involved with a lead like canvassing.
And let me make a comment, because I know people that know you for canvassing, and we're going to talk much more than just about canvassing. But I just want to kind of go back to something you just said. So, and it ties back to the question I asked you earlier, where what do you say to the owner that says, well, I don't want to go out and do that kind of thing, which was me. I didn't really want to go out and do that kind of thing. We ended up doing it because we knew the power of it. But you said that you could essentially start canvassing with one person that just goes to the 10 or 20 houses around the job that you are currently working today. I think a lot of people, when they think canvassing, they think, oh, man, I got to hire a canvas manager. I got to hire a team. I got to have a van. I got to have this, and I got to have that, and I got to send them out at night and give them maps, and I got to do all of this stuff. But what you said was, hey, you could even, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you could even start with something as simple as just go to the few houses around where you're currently working, right?
Without a doubt. There's just, again, you can you don't have to overcomplicate it. You know, I've always said the hardest door you'll ever knock on is the car door, to just get out and go do it. So, you know, the real thing is just getting out there and go and do it. It doesn't have to be 2 people at a time or a dozen people at a time. It just takes one individual. There's a lot of nicknames going around the industry. You know, they call it clover leafing in some cases, or, you know, where they just are going in a kind of a clover leaf shaped fashion around the home, knocking on 4 or 5 doors in close, tight proximity, where people have definitely seen the work going on. They've seen the trucks, they've seen all the activity, and they've seen the transformation of their neighbor's home. And so even doing it in tight proximity like that with a salesperson or your other marketing staff that might work in shows, events, retail, but any activity is good activity as far as I'm concerned when it comes to proactive lead generation.
Well, and I got to say, you know, my biggest thing when, you know, with my companies was action always causes reaction. So if we're slow today, it's because of the action that we are taking, or inaction in that case, right, that we're taking. And for whatever reason, through cosmic forces, whatever the hell you want to call it, if you are out there doing something, you can't not get leads and jobs. And it absolutely blows my mind how many companies are out there that go into a neighborhood, focus on one house, do that one job, and get the hell out of there, rather than going and telling all of their people, hey, look, we're on stage here. There's an opportunity here for us to get another job from this one that we're doing. And here are the ways that we would get another job. So, you know, obviously we want to be neat and clean on the job site. We want to be respectful and polite. We want to do a good job. We want to provide a good experience to that customer. But then now you add on this component to it where you go and start knocking on doors. And how can you not do that? And how can you not generate more leads from that?
Yeah, that's the thing, Brian. You know, if you're not knocking on doors around your job sites, guess what? Somebody else is.
Yeah.
And so you got to take that to heart, and you really have to consider a strategy on how you can take full advantage and turn one job into 3 jobs, turn one job into 4 jobs. You know, we like to create a circus out there in the neighborhood, and what I mean by that is, you know, in a very tactful manner, we like to have orange cones and banners and trailers and things of that nature to really create high visibility, to really justify our purpose for being there and apologizing for any noise or debris or disruption we may have caused in the neighborhood. You know, if there is no disruption to apologize for, then we'll create one.
Well, and you brought something up, and I wasn't sure if this is something that is available online. I know you've talked about it in your seminars, and for those of you that are listening in and you're not really familiar with Tony, Tony's got a great YouTube channel where he's got tons of videos where he just gives and gives and gives. He gives you scripts. He walks out. He shows you actually what's going on. And you can find it, I guess, on YouTube. They can just put in Tony Hoty, or they can go to your website, TonyHoty.com. But my point, what I was going to ask you was, so one of the videos that I've seen, which I thought was fantastic, and if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing just a little script, was the one where you're going to the house and you're basically starting with an apology. Could you give us that quick script? Because again, I'm trying to take, my goal here with Accelerate and for the next 3 days is to give the audience, the listeners, usable, actionable tactics and strategies that they can go execute immediately. And this one, I think, is so strong that it would be a disservice if we didn't kind of help nudge people along. So that script is so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, it's easy. you're not going and asking for a lead.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, Brian. It's the reason you say it's easy. It really isn't a script as much as it is a formula. When you script something, it can become robotic. I certainly follow a process, certainly follow a system, certainly follow a clear-cut methodology. However, I'm a little adverse to scripting people to the point of the fact that they're robotic. But what we do is this very simple three-step process, which is our public service announcement is step number one. And that's where we just apologize for any disruption or commotion we may have caused in the neighborhood. Not sure if you've seen the trucks or the installation team working nearby, but just want to give you a heads up that we are doing some work in the area. And then step two is what we call our neighborhood prompted response. And that's where we just simply state we've had a lot of folks who've had interest. They've wandered down to the job site and asked our installers for business cards and brochures. We've had some people slow down and drive by and take a closer look. Some people walking dogs and expressing an interest with curiosity. And so, as a courtesy to those individuals and everyone else nearby, we're just leaving some information behind. And so that's kind of our neighborhood prompted response. And then we, at that point have a conversation starter. We could ask them, have you seen have you seen us working? Have you noticed us working? Or how long have you lived in the home? Or how old are your replacement windows? Or how old is your roof? And that's really the process. And it really does flow very nicely because it's very conversational in nature.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's fantastic. There is a video on that, or isn't there, online, or is that somewhere else?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can sift through the YouTube channel, and you'll certainly find a lot of.
And I know in the seminars, I know you go into this stuff in a lot more detail. So canvassing is a big one. What besides canvassing is working for your clients?
Well, I've been really encouraged and really, pleasantly surprised by some of the incredible results that some of these in-store marketing programs are doing for, in big box stores with major national retailers, wholesale clubs, grocery store chains, hardware chains, even some good results in shopping malls and things of that nature. So I've been really pleasantly surprised in the last couple of years at how well we've been able to generate leads inside these store programs. Just, we've got people that are in consumer mode. They're out shopping, in some capacity, whether it be a big box store, grocery store, or what have you. And we're able to engage them while they're in, again, consumer mode. We're able to engage them on neutral territory, not necessarily at their house. Sometimes that's tough for people to knock on someone's door and engage them on their own turf. But in neutral territory here, we're getting some great results. Some of these success stories would blow your mind regarding the millions of dollars in revenue that's being generated annually out of one retail store.
So what is that, when you say a retail store or big box, what does that kind of look like? Can you give us an example there of what you mean by that?
Well, imagine, shopping at a Walmart or at a Sam's Club or BJ's Wholesale Club or an Ace Hardware store, and you get approached by a pseudo employee, if you will, that comes up to you with a serve, not sell approach. And that is, we're offering shoppers a $5 gift card for participating in a quick, household survey. We're offering shoppers a chance to scratch and win a $500 shopping spree instantly here in the store today if you participate in a quick household survey. And that kind of barter there, where we're trading either a gift card or an opportunity to win a shopping spree or some gift, is the opener and the icebreaker that really paves the way. And then through the household survey, we kind of isolate need, find out what exactly the homeowner needs that we can offer them. And through that process, we're able to generate an incredible number of leads in a very consumer-friendly way.
So how do you get into those? How do you create those deals with the big box stores? What does that look like?
That is a great question, and there's really only two ways to go about this. There are some pre-existing programs that exist that you can apply for participation in. In some cases, the manufacturer is the liaison that helps you get into these stores. For example, if you're in the HVAC business, heating and air conditioning, you can get some help from, Rheem and Trane and Lennox and some of these manufacturers that can help you get into these big box stores. By the same token, some of these other programs are undefined, and, you kind of have to really, do your own legwork to get in the stores. You have to create a partnership, develop a retail arrangement with the store managers and the store leadership. And so, the real key with that is to do your homework. Find out, what the core values are of that retail store chain or that local retail store. And if they are big on giving to their local charity, you might want to do your research, find out what their favorite charity is, and use that as an opportunity or a vehicle to get in and, create a program where you're going to donate some money to their favorite charity if you can partner up and have access to, to their shoppers, either inside or outside the store. A lot of people bringing mobile showrooms and not taking up floor space, but just being out in the parking lot of these retail stores and generating leads in that fashion. But when all else fails, you can get a hold of the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts. They have found ways to be out front in these stores, selling cookies, selling popcorn, and doing things of that nature. So if you partner up with some of these local community organizations, you can approach these retailers together and get yourself into some of these retail stores so that you have an opportunity to take advantage of their foot traffic and generate lots of leads.
So you just mentioned in that, let's break this apart for a minute, because I'm very familiar with the Walmart program, where basically they are subleasing you a spot in the front of the store after they go through the checkout lines.
Exactly.
And, so essentially you're creating a showroom inside of their store. But you also mentioned other opportunity. I know you've done this all kinds of different ways. But you mentioned you can park something outside, like a mobile showroom, for those people that have a mobile showroom. What if somebody, say, doesn't have a mobile showroom? Or what if somebody doesn't have necessarily the opportunity to do an in-store showroom inside of one of these big boxes? What are some other opportunities that are available? I know you did something with a grocery store that was very successful.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of different programs with grocery stores where, we partner with, the grocery store to do a food drive, and, we're willing to, donate to that charity, and, we're doing it on behalf of the homeowners if they're willing to participate in a household survey. In some cases, we'll offer gift cards to the store, the grocery store, in order to get there and, again, barter. We barter with them for their time. People value their time more than money. You can always find a little more money if you really try. If you go through the cushions on the couch or put your old shoes on Craigslist, you can find more money, but you never find more time. When you're out, you're out. So you have to barter with people for their time. You've got to give them a little something in exchange for the interaction. If you increase engagement, you will increase lead flow. That is the formula for success. So, one of my favorite success stories with respect to these type of programs is a gas station program whereby we're offering, $5 off your fill up for participating in a energy survey. And, we worked with a variety of different companies in the HVAC industry, in the solar industry, in the replacement window industry, in the insulation industry to take energy surveys at the pump and turn those into leads. And I tell you what, when you put an A-frame sign out in front of the gas station with balloons that says free gas, it creates a lot of traffic, and the gas station owner's pretty open-minded to having you generating leads at the pump when he sees the dollar signs.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. It's not a whole lot of setup, right? And $5 to talk with somebody. One thing you mentioned, and I know what it is, but I just want to clarify in case, because it's called different things, but you keep referring to a household survey. Can you tell us exactly what you mean by a household survey?
Yeah, the household survey that we use, and it comes in various, there's different versions of it depending upon which client we might be working with and which industry they're in, what product lines they sell. But the whole purpose of the household survey is to funnel your prospect down from the point of initial engagement, finding out, do you own a home? How long have you owned the home? How far away from this particular location is your home located? So we are qualifying at this point. And then once we get those obvious things, it's, what projects have you done to the home? And we like to provide them with some imagery of the different things that we do. So if we do roofing, siding, windows, and doors, we'd have a product selection chart with those images on there. And we'd ask them a simple question. If you want it for free in a home makeover contest, which project would you choose? And that is a very telling scenario. I call it the $1 million question. I mean, you're going to isolate the consumer or the homeowner's priority right then and there, and you're going to know what to focus or center the conversation around from that point forward.
Yeah, it's a very elegant strategy. The way that you do it, and the way that I've seen you do it. Let's talk about. So let's say that somebody is maybe already in one of these retail environments, in a Walmart or in another retailer, and let's say that maybe it's not going that well. You and I have heard this a lot, and you get a lot more phone calls about this than I do. But hey, Tony, I'm in Walmart. It's not working. What are some recommendations you have for that group?
Well, that's a great question, and that falls back to one of my core philosophies on how to solve that problem, and that is attraction versus pursuit. Okay, that which we attract in life converts relatively effortlessly. Now, that which we pursue generally eludes us. And so when I see people struggling in the retail environment, I often see them kind of carnival barking, as I call it, where they're almost chasing down consumers and trying to force the engagement. When we turn that frown upside down and we give the consumer a reason to want to be involved with us, everything changes. I can give you several examples of this. It was Christmas time, the holidays, and the retail stores are packed, a lot of activity, difficult to get people to stop. But, we had everything from candy canes to Santa Claus to reindeer rides to whatever it was that would attract youngsters over to our kiosk. And then their parents would, of course, follow. And we offered free gift wrapping at the kiosks in some of these retail stores that would drive traffic to us and increase engagement, increase the lead flow. Incredible results from these type of attraction versus pursuit philosophies and strategies.
So I just want to point something out that Tony just said, and it's a big topic, but I think you can grasp it quickly. And Tony and I can probably talk about this for another hour. But I want you to be really, I want you to pick up and, if you can, write down what he just said. Attraction versus pursuit. So are you attracting people, or are you chasing after them? And as Tony just said, and he's got proof over and over and over again, attraction is going to work a whole lot better than pursuit. And it's just such a good such a good philosophy, Tony, that you've got. All right, so we're going to talk about. I want to ask you about home shows and other types of event like expos, fairs, or festivals. Before I do that, because it's kind of a big topic, and I know that you've got a ton of really good ideas about how all of that works. But what about people creating their own events?
That is one of my favorite things to do with clients, is to really get involved in the creation side of things. That's really, to me, a lot of fun, and that's really what lead generation is. It's originating and creating. And so one of my mentors, the chief marketing officer at Progressive, says, "Don't make me come over there and out-create you." And so I love to get involved in creating events, whether they be at the showroom, and we're getting prior customers and people to come to the showroom because we're offering, different, attraction devices. We're having food trucks, and we're having holiday festivals and gift wrapping at the showroom, or whether we're driving traffic to our showroom for an event and giving away tickets to the home show or what have you. But I love to drive traffic and create events. I have a recent success story that I'm really proud of. In my local town, we sponsored the high school football team and created an event at the high school football games, and had an all eyes on us halftime event where we offered, homeowners a chance to throw a football over 20 yards through a small hole in a sign, and if they were successful, someone would win a $10,000 home makeover. And of course, we had a winner, and that was incredible. We generated a lot of publicity, and for those of you that study that sort of thing, publicity can trump advertising 10-1. And so that was very effective for us. We made leads at the community event at the high school football game, and we also garnered a lot of publicity in the process. So I love to create events, whether they be, partnership with other home improvement companies that we don't directly compete with, and having our own little home show at one of our offices, or even going to a Dave & Buster's type venue where there's an arcade type thing, and inviting all of our prior customers, getting them together, and offering them food and fun, and also, of course, providing a presentation at some point throughout that event.
Well, and let me make a couple comments here, because I want to point something out. So what most companies do at high school football games or Little League or whatever, kids type sporting event, is they put a banner up on the fence with a phone number, right? And they put their logo and they put their phone number, and they essentially are paying for a sponsorship and just waiting and hoping that somebody is going to call them. And I want to point out that the example that Tony just gave is it fully encompasses what we've been talking about with proactive lead generation. So the put up a banner and wait for someone to call is on one end of the spectrum, and Tony's example where they actually created this event. Was it done during halftime?
It was. It was done during halftime, and that was a stipulation. We weren't just going to spend our money on signage. That we can put signs just about anywhere, and you can plant one of your yard signs at the entrance and exit of the school, whenever you want. But that's not enough. We wanted to have, again, an all eyes on us, focus, really generate some publicity, and of course those individuals that signed up, the homeowners that signed up that wanted to throw the football, they obviously did that for a reason. They're not getting in front of a big crowd and potentially embarrassing themselves unless they need replacement windows, and
Right.
thus they need whatever it is that we're offering. And so we generated a lot of leads in the process.
Very, very smart. All eyes on us. That's a great. It's a great little snippet. That's a good little writer downer there. All right. So let's talk about. Fairs, festivals. Let's kind of leave home shows aside because everybody kind of either does home shows or is familiar with home shows, has some sort of experience with home shows. And so let's talk about that next. But first, let's talk about the off-the-beaten-path events, which you are also just absolutely, you blow my mind with the stuff that you come up with for these events. So can you tell us a little bit about those and, give us some examples of some of the crazy stuff that you've done and where you go?
Well, there are countless smaller events in every community, regardless of how big or small the town may be. Everything from, events that are held by your local chamber of commerce to little craft shows and block parties. These may not yield the same kind of foot traffic that a big local home show or even a state fair might generate, but they do generate a consistent flow of quality leads, and they help to create a local connection that can help increase closing percentages on the sales side of things. But we'll get involved with these different events, and it doesn't matter if it's a little gun and rifle show where we've got a shooting contest, or a small little golf expo where we've got a putt to win contest, or maybe we found a pet show and we are giving baths to dogs in our bathroom display, or we've got a doggy door in our patio door, or something to that effect, where we're really tying into the theme of that particular event so that we are connecting with the attendees and not alienating them, in the process.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about this many times, and it makes so much sense, because the initial thought is, okay, if I'm going to go to any type of show, whatever it is, I'm going to drag the same booth to every single one of them. But what you do is not that at all. You may take the same booth, but in front of the booth or around the booth, you're creating something that ties right into that, whatever the theme of that event is.
That's exactly right. There's an old phrase that I absolutely love, stating, if I have seen further, it has been on the shoulders of giants. Now, I like to look up to giants in the industry and in other industries, Fortune 100 companies, and I sit around on Sunday afternoon watching football, and I see that when there's football on TV, that doesn't matter if it's a car commercial, an insurance commercial, a beer commercial, whatever the case may be, all of those commercials are football related. Okay, and they do that to connect with their audience. We don't want to redirect their attention. That's pursuit. We want to connect and attract. So attraction versus pursuit, that same philosophy will serve you well at your events. If you're at a wine and cheese festival, have crackers and cheese out front. Have a guess how many corks are in the glass. Get people involved in a wine kind of way. And so those kinds of things will really help take a smaller event and increase the results tremendously.
Yeah. What do you have coming up? You mentioned you've got 3 or 4 things, unless you don't want to.
Well, it's home show season here in Cleveland, so we'll be involved in some of the local home shows and just doing our best to separate from the herd as we enter those exhibit halls with so much competition. Just finding ways to separate from the herd and create our own path.
Yeah. So how do one of the big questions is how do I find the events that are happening in my area?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of resources, simple Google searches, and there's a website that a lot of people are fond of called eventcrazy.com. You can search, by zip code, and you can put a mileage factor in there and how far you're willing to travel for events. And then, I do suggest getting involved in some networking organizations like the Chamber of Commerce and, things of that nature that'll help open your eyes up to some smaller events and getting connected with the community to find some of these obscure events.
Obscure. Good word, obscure. And a lot of these events, they don't cost a whole lot of money to participate, right? To have a table or a booth?
No, at many of these events, the main cost is labor and
labor,
erecting erecting your displays and collapsing your displays and just having marketers spend time at the event. So we have to get a return, through the lead generation, but the actual events cost next to nothing.
So how do you, if I'm at you just rattled off a whole bunch. If I'm at a golf show, which has nothing to do with home improvement, or I'm at a wine and cheese show, which has absolutely nothing to do with home improvement, right people, but golf doesn't have anything to do with home improvement. How do you, I know this is a much bigger conversation, but if you can give us just a little bit of an idea of how you convert somebody that's there looking at golf clubs or wine into a home improvement lead.
Well, first we may have our whole exhibit crafted into the theme of that particular event. So if it's a golf show, as I mentioned, we may have a putt to win contest. There we may be raffling off a gift certificate to Golf Galaxy. We may be offering low dollar gift cards to Golf Galaxy for participating in our household survey, things of that nature to keep the theme centered around golf. And that helps to, increase traffic. Remember, if we increase engagement at the exhibit, we can't help but increase lead flow. And so, if we're at a gun and rifle show and we've got hunters, then we may be offering, a gift card to Cabela's or the Bass Pro Shop, and we may raffle something off to that effect. We may have a shoot to win contest with cork rifles and create, an attraction scenario that's going to increase traffic towards our booth, separate us from the herd there.
Nice. And one thing that you mentioned earlier, and I just kind of want to bring it back again because I think it's really important. You mentioned bartering for a lead. And I just wanted you to kind of clarify that a little bit and just tell us, before we get into talking about home shows, what exactly do you mean by that? Because I think it's really important, and just in case, I just want to make sure people absolutely understand what you mean by that, because I think it's a really important philosophy that the successful companies have in making leads, these proactive leads.
Well, it really, again, the core philosophies that drive the right behavior are going to be find ways to serve, not sell. So always think of a way that you can provide something to the consumer that is going to get them happily involved with you, so that you're not pursuing, but rather, attracting. And so it's that attraction versus pursuit philosophy that ties in as well. So serve, not sell, attract versus pursue. And offer the consumer something for their time. They don't want to be interrupted, at the golf show when they're there for their leisure time. They don't want to be interrupted, and sold to or pitched at the wine and cheese festival during their leisure time. So you have to come up with something, that is really, in essence, a barter or a trade for their time or their engagement. Give them something they want in order to get what we want, which is engagement and interaction.
Yeah. Part of the reason why I brought that back up again, Tony, is because, and I know you see this a lot, but there's a lot of resistance out there with people on, hey, they feel weird or dirty. I don't know what the right word is. Different people feel different ways about saying, hey, I'll give you this if you give me that. I think the point here is that that you're saying is it's the right thing to do. But then also, I think it's important that an important distinction to make here is that where Tony is coming from, and where everybody on for the next 3 days is going to be coming from, is here's what works. Here is what the most successful companies in the industry are doing. And so, yeah, you might feel a little bit weird about it, but it goes back to Tony's philosophy about serving and not selling, and it also. It's also the right thing to do in respect for that prospect, respect for that customer. Just walking up to them and asking them for their time or asking them if you can pitch them something is dirtier, if you will, in my book, than saying, hey, look, if you're willing to answer a couple questions for me, I'm willing to give you $5 in gas, or I'm willing to give you a gift card to Golf Galaxy or whatever that is.
That's exactly right. It really kind of takes that rudeness factor out of it because, it's the law of reciprocity.
Yeah.
There's an incredible book out there written by Dr. Robert Cialdini. It's called Yes, with an exclamation point after it. Yes, 50 scientifically proven ways to influence. And one of his references there is how when servers, waitresses and waiters, servers in the restaurant industry provide mints in excess to their patrons, they receive larger tips, and this is documented through the law of reciprocity. And so we're taking advantage of that law of reciprocity by first offering, first seek to understand before you wish to be understood, so to speak. And it really does make a difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and that's a great book, too, by the way, for those of you listening, and it's really interesting. It's a really interesting book, all the different case studies that they did. All right, so let's go. So we've got about 6 minutes or so left here, Tony, and I want to ask you a little bit about home shows and kind of some success strategies for home shows. Before we get into that, is how can people learn more about your services and what you offer?
Well, I'm offering a free 30-minute consultation to anyone who's listening to the Accelerate 2016 program. We can talk about anything from proactive lead generation and canvassing and retails and trade shows and events to recruiting for those positions. I can be reached on the web through my website, TonyHoty.com, TonyHoty.com. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn. Please like my fan page on Facebook. You can find me there, and of course through email, Tony@TonyHoty.com. So plenty of ways to get in touch if you want to take advantage of that free consultation.
So I would encourage any of you listening, if you're considering this type of marketing, take Tony up on his offer. You're not going to find anybody in our business that knows more and has got more experience with this type of lead generation than Tony. So let's talk now about, in our last few minutes here, let's talk about home shows. How do you improve results? How do you separate yourself from everybody else? I think you said something earlier, separating from the herd, from everybody else. You're going to walk into a home show in the next few weeks, and there's going to be lots of other window companies there. What are some ways of completely separating yourself from everybody else?
Well, I'm glad you asked. That really is one of my favorite things to do. Again, help clients, get creative and separate from the herd. You often hear things like, competition is healthy, and that may be true for the consumer, but again, it's not true for those of us on the business side of things. So I feel it's imperative to leapfrog your competition with more effective strategy. That strategy often includes a decision to be omnipresent, be everywhere. Be present, being omnipresent really involves everything from guerrilla marketing efforts, like, having yard signs that are highly visible as people are leading up to the home show, having maybe sign waivers that are waving and getting your name out first and foremost in their minds. Again, those all eyes on us opportunities. Having balloons and things of that nature on your yard signs to draw attention to them the first 100 or 200 yards leading up to the home show or event. And then, you get into guerrilla efforts like indoor remote control blimps, that hover around and give you that omnipresence is one tactic or strategy that we had one of my clients do, and unbelievable results with that type of thing. So more traditional forms of sponsorship like, brochure bags, branded hand sanitizers, and, having your logo printed on the back of, the entrance tickets or parking passes, having things at the point of entry, sponsoring the parking shack so that your name is first and foremost as people arrive at these home shows and events. Having flyers that are being passed out at the entrances that drive traffic to your booth. So, the flyer may say, come get your free gift. The flyer may have a key on it that says, this may be the key to your dream home makeover, and come check it out at booth number 416 and see if the key works in our entry door or our patio door or our treasure chest. But use opportunities to drive traffic to your booth so that you are taking advantage of all the foot traffic and separating from all the noise in an environment like that.
Love it. Great advice, Tony. As always, I appreciate your experience and your willingness to share. Just so everybody knows, a few months back, Tony did a presentation at the Extreme Sales Summit, which was so good. It was about selling, and it's all about trust-based selling. And I thought the presentation was so good. I asked Tony if he would come back tomorrow and if he wouldn't let me ask him questions about selling in the house, because I might have mentioned earlier, Tony was actually in a house last night, sold the job last night at the kitchen table. And so he's a very unique perspective, both in being in companies, large companies all around the country as a consultant, but he's also a home improvement company owner. And so he has a very unique perspective on the sales process. So Tony will be back with us tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So it's Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And I really appreciate you taking the time and being here with us today and also tomorrow, Tony. And up next will be Chris Bean, and we will be talking about the mobile shift in SEO, being proactive about the mobile consumer. So hang tight, and we'll be back in very shortly with Chris Bean from Socius Marketing, and we are going to be talking about the mobile shift in SEO. Thank you all, and see you back here in just a few minutes.